Hey, welcome to the sit down. I'm your man, Rod Love, and this is a different kind of sit down tonight. I want to make sure our audience that's tuned in realize tonight you're going to be hearing and experiencing some things that we know about, but we don't often talk about, and that is responsible fatherhood. I'm pleased to have with me this evening not just my guest, but I'm gonna call you my friend. And we got Mr. Antoine Henry in the studio with us. And Antoine, I want you to be relaxed, man, and I want you to sit back because I'm gonna be taking you back down memory lane because I think your story is an important one that men need to hear, but not only men, but women who have relationships with men that are fathers to not only their kids, but to other kids as well. And so you participated in the Central Florida Responsible Fatherhood Initiative that the Florida Economic Consortium facilitates, right?
Yes, yes, I did.
And I just got to ask you this question: what drove you to reach out to FEC to see how we could help you with the Responsible Fatherhood Initiative?
I felt like, again, I saw your video on LinkedIn and what you were talking about when it came to fatherhood initiative and reuniting fathers with their children, doing what it takes to bridge that gap.
Mm.
And I had already filed the paperwork to start this process
Mhm.
to get my son. And I just felt like that was a godsend. I was like, man, that's it. God speaking to me right now. I mean, this is opportunity right in front of my face. Something that I have not seen ever. And now all of a sudden I'm looking at this video,
Mhm.
um, you know, mostly pertaining to jobs on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah,
So I'm looking at this video at work and I'm like, this is for me,
that's for
you
you.
know? Yeah.
Well, you know what? Let people know who Mr. Henry is. I mean, a little bit about, if you don't mind, because I mean, you shared with us, um, but who Mr. Henry is.
Uh, I'm an average man. I did some time. We talked about that as well. When I got out, I've been working to reestablish myself in the community, and I just have a love for my family and my community, and I do as much as I can for my family, myself, my friends, and the community.
I
You
don't,
know,
I don't, I don't want to skip over something you just said because we often, you know, we meet somebody who did some time, who is back, and I mean, you're from what I know of you, man, bigger, better, stronger than ever. Because I'm looking at what your contributions are to the community. But as we navigate this, you're originally from Chi-Town,
yes, sir.
and
Yes,
I
sir.
and got a chance to meet your mom that was here a few weeks ago. But a man from Chi-Town, you made some mistakes, but it wasn't the mistakes that have held you down. You've gotten up, man, and I mean done some incredible things. You've been with your employer for how many years now?
4 years.
4 years, and what I'm really impressed about, man, and I'm gonna just get to it, man. I want you to take us back to the moment you decided to fight for shared custody of your son. What was going through your mind, and what pushed you to take that next step?
It was a conflict in my mind because I didn't want to hurt my child's mother in any way. And I'm not trying to, and at no point was I trying to take her son from her. But I felt like my child needs the best that he can get. And we're given two parents for a reason. And at the time, I was able to see my son, in the confines of her home in the living room only. And I was mostly just a visitor. I do have a daughter, and I do so many things. I'm a first time father.
How
Um,
old are your kids, by the way?
they're under two.
Okay,
They'll both be two.
so you got two,
They'll both be two in a few months.
boy and a girl.
Actually, yeah.
Okay,
You know, and I do so much with my daughter. I'm spending all this time with my daughter and experiencing all these things, and I just felt like I couldn't do that for my son. So there was a conflict in my mind as well. A joy to be able to do it for her, but also a pain of not being able to do it for him.
man,
And
man.
I felt like he was taking the short end, and I couldn't allow that to happen. I needed to go all the way for him, so I could be able to do for him like I do for her.
Well, I saw, and we'll get to it, but I saw how passionate you were in court. And I'm gonna do a rewind on that because I think the Central Florida Responsible Fatherhood also learned some things going through this process. But what role did the Central Florida Responsible Fatherhood Initiative play in helping you prepare, not just, and let me say this, Central Florida Responsible Fatherhood Initiative is not a lawyer, it's not a legal agency or anything to that extent. I mean, we work with fathers on trying to get that emotional attachment. We also look at how can we refer fathers or work within the confines of past experiences navigating being responsible child support wise, looking at how do you take those steps to get shared custody. But so when you got with the Central Florida Responsible Fatherhood, what really stuck out to you to say, let me pursue this a little further?
What I say is that there was an immediate embrace. So as soon as I reached out, members of the program reached back out to me, and I was able to communicate through text, through phone calls, um, offers of visits, and there was an immediate. And every time I spoke to a staff member, um, I was told, you can call me anytime. We can talk as long as you want. So, and I had some pretty lengthy conversations with some of the guys that were in the program. Um, but also, you guys had a Zoom call
Yes.
and put a lawyer on there to answer questions for us, and that was
Mhm.
beneficial as well. I was able to take that opportunity to ask the lawyer my about my particular situation, and I was it helped me resolve some doubts that I may have had in my head, um, as far as whether because of my record would that prevent me from being able
Mm.
to get this custody with my son.
But let me point this out too because this has been a partnership, and for Orange County, one of our contracted partners was the Experienced Christian Center, headed by Bishop Derek McCrae. And in Seminole County, we also had No Limits Educational and Counseling that was a subcontractor in Seminole County working with the community, working with individuals uh, returning from prison, working with individuals that are on probation, in jail. But the biggest piece of this whole initiative is that it served everybody who was interested in coming forth and getting that help that was needed. But you know something, standing in court with you, I watch how you conduct yourself, and I think that is one of the lessons that I was telling my staff. What we need to take from this is you answered the questions that were asked of you by the judge. You dressed appropriately. You didn't show a level of emotion if something was incorrect. You kept pace. I mean, there were some things that we sat in the gallery and we took notes that what you did and it shouldn't, but what you did can mean the difference of you being granted that shared custody or not. Your witnesses, your witnesses understood when they were asked questions to just answer the questions that were asked. The whole process, I got to say, was a process that it just didn't start when you got in the courtroom. That was a process that you had to learn as you got closer and closer to that court date. So for you, man, what was the emotions going through your head when you're there, you're in court, and you're not in a gallery with us, you're sitting at the table having to answer questions, but also you got the opportunity to ask questions too.
Absolutely. I was looking for justice, and I was also looking for mercy and grace. Um, there was a lot of determination in my heart, and there was a lot of emotions. I'm here to accomplish this goal, but it's not about my feelings right now. So that's something I need to handle later after court. But my main focus was getting my son and doing what's necessary to get my son.
You just said something that I think everybody needs to be mindful of. You had your day in court, but you was also asking for mercy and grace too. And I think that's important, man, that when we go and when we're challenged like that, it's not about the combat, if you would. It's also about the mercy and grace because you were advocating for something that I would pray that all fathers, all dads would advocate for, and that's to be a part of their children's lives. So again, man, I can't say it enough. I was humbled by what I experienced in that courtroom, but something else. I don't remember the judge's name, and I know judges are there to rule, and they're looking at what's presented to them. But man, everything took place, in my opinion, fair and balanced. And when I kept looking up at that judge, he saw something in you. He saw a father who wanted to be in that child's life. He saw a responsible man that said to the court and to the world, I brought this young man into this world, and not only am I going to be financially responsible, because that wasn't a question. When the judge went through the process of what your obligations were financially, that wasn't an issue that you were just there for. Your issue was, I want to be the man in my child's life. And that was impacted. So tell me, how were you feeling as the judge was guiding, directing, and asking you questions? What went through your mind?
Um, Hope. I would say it was a lot of hope that we got to the bottom of things, that we were able to come to the right conclusions. Um, I felt like I was treated fairly. I didn't feel at any moment that the proceedings was unfair. Everybody was just attesting to what they understood, what they experienced, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the judge was really just trying to get to the bottom, trying to understand where everybody was coming from and what the right decision was.
How did you feel when the judge ruled in your favor?
I felt great. I felt great. I felt like justice had been served, and I was ready to begin this next chapter of my life. Being able to have my son, and it was a new reality for us all. And like you said, my daughter, she hadn't met her brother hadn't met her. It was just things were upside down, and they was put back in their place where they needed to be.
I got to point this out. This wasn't about winners or losers. I mean, that case wasn't about winners or losers, because your son, he won, you won, and his mother won too.
I believe so.
His mother won as well. At what point did you feel things were going your way in court?
I guess I would say that I was able to read the judge's heart, I guess I would say, because he did ask his own questions.
Yeah.
And those questions kind of led me to understand where he was coming from. And when I saw that he was looking for the truth, I know the truth, and I understand the law. And when I recognized that, that's when I knew. I said, he's going to rule in my favor.
And you just mentioned a word, and I think I want to point this out. And man, I don't know. It just seemed like time slowed down in that courtroom. I don't know how long we were there, but when you talk about the truth, being in there, it wasn't about any level of embarrassment for anybody. It wasn't about sword play, if you would. It wasn't about getting the best of anybody. When you mentioned that it was about speaking the truth and speaking facts, I think everybody won that day, man, because the facts and the truth were clear and evident. And so, with that, a couple of weeks ago, your two children met for the first time. And I got to tell you, I appreciate the pictures that you sent, but those pictures were heartwarming, man. How did that make you feel?
You said it was heartwarming. My heart was smiling. My lips were smiling. I was beaming with joy. Just observing them. You know, um, the embrace, the way they just played together, was drawn together, followed each other around the house, pushed each other, and it was just there they go. It's finally happened. This is it.
Man,
It's awesome. I'm looking forward to them saying each other's name for the first time.
wow.
So
Wow. Man, I mean, I You sent me them pictures, man, and it was one of those moments, man, that because I built a relationship with you and we've been working through this process, that was a that was a heartwarming warming picture, but it also was a message. And it was a message that we got to figure a way that we can reach out to more men and having more men engaged and involved in the process of being responsible fathers. It's just not a word. There's action that come along with that. And man, I tell you, you put forth a great deal of action. What does it mean to you as a man and as a father to know your children will grow up knowing each other and having one another in each other's lives?
That's immense joy. They have each other, support each other, and it's. I feel like they need each other. You know, I already see how they benefit.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that in areas of bedtime. Um, I've seen that in areas of eating because once they see one, the other eat, they'll eat, and it's just like, okay, I see it. My daughter speaks more words than my son, but he's kind of like watching her and following along. Okay, if she asks for something, okay, I can do the same.
Yeah.
It's just I just think that they belong together.
You know,
You know,
I had the opportunity at court to meet your wife as well.
Mhm.
What was that feeling? You and your wife, you see your children there together because you're just half of the story. That wife is the other half.
we all have our stories. The kids can't tell theirs yet. Something that you don't know about my wife is that she found her brother at the age of 18.
Wow.
She looked for her brother and found him by her dad,
Man.
and she didn't know him none of her life. And that's one of the things that really, like, when she talked to me about this, it really settled in my heart. Like, she's supposed to be in this fight with me as well.
Mm-hmm.
She understands where she's coming from, and it's not always been easy. The situation hasn't always been easy for her,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, she understood because she's been on the other end.
Yeah.
And for love for the children and for the best for the children, she had full support and still does. She's all about family unity. And so she was immensely happy
Well, I
about
heard you.
the results.
Well, I met your wife at court, and then when I heard her testimony,
Hmm.
man, it was all about love. It was all about love and support and doing the right thing. And so, man, I got to take my hat off to you and your wife, man. Throughout this journey, though, moments of doubt, fear, joy. What have you learned about yourself that you didn't know before?
I learned I'm a father. I tell you that. And 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I was a man walking alone. And here I am now, wife, 2 kids, and I'm a father. And I understand what it means to be a father. I understand about sacrifice. You know, loving a being more than yourself and willing to do whatever for that being. And I understand I had that capability.
It's called growth.
Yeah,
It's called growth, brother.
yeah.
So let me ask you, what would you say to a father out there who feels like the system is against them, or that being present isn't worth the fight? What would you say to a father?
Well, first of all, there's been a lot of change in the system in the last couple of years, and the system is not against you. And I think a lot of people are unaware of this, and that just that the fear of the unknown
Mhm.
is hindering them from moving forward. Um, the 50-50 custody is in multiple states now. Um, they're working on the child interference laws. It's been a lot of changes that are beneficial to us, and we need to take advantage of those things. We need to be aware of those things. And yeah, our children are worth fighting for.
You know,
It's worth being present.
you've been very extraordinary too because you did a lot of research yourself. How did you come to, I don't know, man, training yourself on how to navigate?
Everything is coming from determination. It's coming from that love for my child. Whatever I need to do, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make that sacrifice in time and put forth that effort to do what needs to be done for my child.
You know, I gave credit and I recognize um, the Experienced Christian Center, No Limits Education and Counseling. But there's two other individuals that you had a great deal of interaction with as well. And I want to recognize and commend them as well. And that's Miss Shaquita Wynn on my staff, as well as Walter Smith. What, your interaction, your experience, and consider this a customer satisfaction follow-up survey question. You know, I witnessed what they were doing, and sometimes I can't say, "Hey, keep at it," because they might come back real quick and ask for that raise. But but
But they great. Both of them are great. I'm still in communication with both people. They befriended me
good.
from the get go. They befriended me. Walter, having dealt with the situation, immediately was had an empathy towards the situation. I've been here. I've done this. And this is the things that's been successful. These are the things that I've learned, and let me share everything with you. And even if it's just you want to talk about your emotions, what you're going through, we can do that. We can talk at any time. Personal cell phone number. I've talked to him at 8 o'clock. I work all the way to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Um, so evenings, weekends, he was available, and he still is available. Um,
And let me give a little background. So Walter, Walter works for the consortium in a contract compliance capacity. And once we were awarded this contract, unbeknownst to me or anybody else, Walter had lived experience in this area of advocating to be in his children's lives, the child support advocacy piece. Walter is Walter has become one of the foremost authorities around not just Florida but around the country. People are calling Walter from everywhere, and he's not. Let me qualify it. He's not giving any legal advice. Walter's giving people what his life experience has been navigating this process, and it's helped you. It's helped my organization continue to excel. So I have to give a shout out to Walter. But then when I talk about Miss Shaquita Wynn, she's my operations person. Um, I mean, when I say operation, that doesn't do her any justice because Miss Wynn puts in the work. She learns the subject matter piece that she needs to know, and she knows how to bring people together. Just like you said, um, both of them make themselves available 24/7. And so I'm just I'm happy and proud that we're on the same team.
if I can add, I spoke to Miss Wynn first, and I was driving at the time. I was on lunch break, and I had really just seen the video, so I reacted just that quick, and I hadn't articulated in my mind what I wanted to say and I really didn't understand all about the program.
Yeah.
So I know I came off, stuttering a little bit, a little panicky, because I'm so passionate about the situation. But Miss Wynn, she like you said, she was very familiar with the subject matter already, but it's also her heart,
Yeah.
right? And her patience. She had a lot of patience. She was like, okay, I got you. And this is what you're saying. Okay. She was very patient with me. And we got straight to what we needed to get. She got the information that she needed to get. Walter's the guy that, he helped me and led me in the direction of taking the courses because that was helpful in court. Your Honor, I took these two courses with this program, the Fatherhood Initiative program. One course on co-parenting and the other course on introduction to fatherhood. And I thought that was beneficial. I think that was something that helped teeter that scale. This is a man that really is going to do what he needs to do for his child. Um, and Walter also did something that was very key and very crucial because the case was dragging on. It's a long process. The wheels of justice do definitely turn slowly. And Walter was like, have you tried temporary? And that opened up a whole new door because temporary allowed me to get in that door in 3 months. Which may not have opened for another 6, 7, a year. Who knows? That temporary is what got me my son.
Man, you know what? I don't want to diminish you. You you were a student, you were a pupil of what you were trying to accomplish, man. And I mean, watching you walk in that courtroom, um, you were prepared, and I'm proud from the perspective that both organizations, I mean, with ACC and No Limits, um, my office, everybody said we showing up from a support
Definitely
standpoint.
appreciate y'all.
But not only did we learn, but one of my good friends, Dr. Randy Nelson, he's one of the foremost criminologists in the country. He's a well sought after scientist. He's a expert in community engagement with stakeholders and law enforcement. But one of the things that he's taught me over these 30 years is the work that we do is not hard work. And you kind of pointed this out. It's not hard work. It's hard work. And that's what I see Walter, Miss Wynn, and you were talking about the curriculum and the bookwork study that we have online. Uh, I got to give credit to our executive producer, uh, Doc Vincent Polite. Uh, what he did was he researched the evidence-based practices to put those curriculums together so that individuals like yourself could actually go online and take those courses. And so everybody contributed to this team process. The sad thing I have to say about this is come June 30th, and I mean, I'm proud that we got the opportunity to execute. But come June 30th, it's a sad piece of commentary when you actually see the results, you actually see the outcomes of good work being done in the community, and the funding just goes away like that. You fund it one year, and the next you're subject to the way the wind blows, unfortunately. But I will say this: I mean, FEC, I'm going to be looking at every nook and cranny to see how we can continue this. But when you get outcomes like this, particularly outcomes and it's taxpayer dollars, it's a sad piece of commentary when things that work don't last. So, but you, man, I got to tell you, you made what we've done. And let me just also say this: we've served over 80 men during the course of this contract. I think we're somewhere at 112 right now. Our contract stated that we had to serve 80. Man, it's been a learning experience for my organization because this is the first time we've endeavored in that area, but you've helped us learn too, man. I got to tell you, and I want to say thank you for that.
I hope this program continues. The world needs this program. Children need fathers.
Boy,
Responsible fathers.
You hit the nail on the head on.
Yeah.
But I think when we show outcomes, I got to tell you, whether you want to or not, you are the poster man for the success of this program, man. And I mean, when I look at the pictures of your children meeting for the first time, or when I think back, we had a Zoom.
Mhm.
You came on the Zoom and you started asking questions. And let's go back to that. You started asking questions way back then, which we had. I don't know if on the first Zoom we had any attorneys on the first one, but as we continue to evolve, you were asking all the questions that men really want to know but don't know what to ask. So how did you feel about you were actually leading the charge, man?
I just hope that it's beneficial to the next man and the next child.
Man, well, I got to tell you, it definitely would be. In your own words, what does responsible fatherhood mean to you after everything that you've been through now?
Responsible fatherhood is taking that responsibility that's given to us. We've been graced with children. And every man ain't graced with children. And taking that seriously and doing the best you can with that. We're not perfect, but doing the best you can for that.
Well, I want to close us out with this. If your children could watch this interview 10 or 20 years from now, what would you want them to know about how hard you fought to be in their lives?
I would want them to know my love for them. To be able to see that their father fought and will fight for them. That they have someone in their life that is going to go all out for them and do whatever's necessary.
Antoine, I got to say, um, from the Florida Economic Consortium, from a community perspective, from being a father and a man myself, I want to say thank you to you for putting yourself out there on a platform to let other men know there's help, but also you got to work for it.
Oh, definitely.
You got to definitely work for it. So, for those of you who've been tuned in, man, my special guest is Mr. Antoine Henry. Um, I don't even know if I should say was a client of the Central Florida Responsible Fatherhood Initiative because you ain't going nowhere, man. You're gonna be one of the spokespersons for this initiative. But I have to say this, and I'm gonna end the show with this. The Responsible Fatherhood title is a good cliche. But what I tell my staff, what I tell everybody I'm engaged with, the end goal should be to evolve as that dad. And so I want to tell all the fathers there that at the end of the day, the end result is to be that daddy, that loving connection. And to that end, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. And Antoine, man, I just want to tell you once again, man, I appreciate you. Keep up the good work.
Yes, sir. I
And
appreciate
whenever
the
you need us,
opportunity.
man, let us know.
For sure.
Hey, we will see you next time on the sit up.